It's a sad reality that this community waited on pins and needles to decide whether or not someone could be held guilty for killing an unarmed black man in his home while eating ice cream. This should have been automatic. This should have been anticipated and expected, but it is extremely rare.
All right. I'm sort of taking Lee Merrick's rhetoric as a separate and aside issue, to be honest with you. The sentencing phase is underway on the Amber Guyger murder trial. The testimony has finished. I believe the prosecution and defense each get 25 minutes, and then it goes to the jury. Clayton Neville, based on what he saw, said the jury should have this about 3 o'clock. This is the portion where they will determine, she's looking at 5 to 99 years. They will determine what they're going to come back with. With me every single day of the trial has been Chris Lewis, defense attorney with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon, and he is with us once again. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Good to be here, Rick.
Let's do this. First of all, your thoughts on where the jury may be. I know that the judge gave them instruction that they could consider crime of passion, although no one seems to think that's going to come into play. Explain to everyone what that means and how it would reduce, I guess, a felony too, correct?
That's right. So sudden passion comes in, for instance, in a murder case. It doesn't absolve a person of the crime of murder. It doesn't excuse murder. But what it says is that there was this adequate provocation, and they acted under a sudden passion, sort of a knee-jerk reaction. So that's where, when people are talking about is something premeditated, certainly something that is premeditated is not sudden passion. Oftentimes the situation that's used is you walk in, you catch your spouse with another individual, you're overcome with this sudden provocation, you shoot and kill the individual. That's a situation where it might go down if the jury finds that there was adequate provocation and the actor acted under sudden passion. It takes the punishment range down from first-degree punishment range to second degree, which is a minimum of 2 years and a maximum of 20 years.
And in this particular case, it wouldn't be a crime of passion as far as being angry, you wouldn't think. It would be out of fear, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there's nothing that shows that she was angry, that she was going into a situation. I don't think anyone disputes the fact that she made a mistake, that she didn't know Botham Jean. This is a situation where if they find that there was sudden passion, it was because, although she's guilty of murder, she was scared and she reacted immediately.
All right. So the jury then comes back to the court with their decision as far as length of time in prison. Walk us through the appeal process from that point.
Well, the defense has a certain amount of time in which they can appeal. And what they'll do is they'll either file a motion for new trial, which they can do within 30 days, or they can file just a direct notice of appeal. And so as long as they've done that timely, they've done what they're supposed to do, they will then prepare briefs that will go through the appellate process in state court. The highest court that we have for criminal appeals is called the Court of Criminal Appeals here in Texas. But it would first go to the Fifth Court of Appeals, which sits here in Dallas, and then depending on what they do, it may very well work its way all the way up to the Court of Appeals here in Texas.
A lot of the email I'm getting saying they hope that this verdict is overturned in the appeals process. They believe Amber Guyger should in fact be punished, but they don't see this as rising to the level of murder. And I think you said the same thing, correct?
I did. That's two issues there. The first one, I think that those folks who are hoping that through the appellate process that Amber Guyger receives some sort of relief, that doesn't happen. a whole lot. And I don't know that there's enough here to overturn this on appeal. Certainly there's hope from people who hope that way. But, yeah, this is one that I saw completely different. I think that you had a jury that they saw things from the perspective of both John and the prosecution. I think that you had probably a jury that was positioned where they accepted very readily emotional arguments and that they made an emotional decision. I thought that I was looking at this case pretty objectively. I didn't have a dog in the fight, one side or the other. I didn't see a murder. I saw a situation where an individual made a mistake, and she certainly could have made some better decisions, but this wasn't a situation where somebody went in and had the intent to kill such that I thought she should be convicted of murder.
Hindsight being 2020, I've gone through this, many, many times, and I keep going back to when Amber Guyger was on the witness stand. And I know the jury has been instructed and they know the letter of the law, or they've been told. But when she said, yes, I did, when asked if she intended to kill him, I don't know that the jury could get past that as far as intent.
It doesn't sound like they can. And you heard Lee Merritt and Darrell Washington. You heard them afterwards. That was one of their talking points, was saying that. But she answered it truthfully. And that is, it befuddles me a little bit why people can't get past that. I mean, it was such a gotcha question. Of course, anyone who shoots and is trained to shoot center mass, you can't say that, whether you're a peace officer or someone that has a CHL, you can't say, I've been trained that if there's a threat where I need to use deadly force and I shoot center mass, I'm shooting just to wound. I'm not shooting to kill. That's preposterous. And had she given that answer, they would have beaten her up on the stand for that answer because it just doesn't make any sense.
Right, for being less than forthright. Let me ask you this, because I know you've been all over this, and we appreciate you joining us every day to share your thoughts. Yesterday, and this is separate and aside, I don't think this had anything to do with the trial itself. Perhaps in the juror's mind, I don't know. But when Lee Merritt and maybe some others said, this is a victory for all black men across the country, I'm shaking my head going, what are you talking about? Because based on the trial, there's no indication that Amber Guyger knew he was a black guy, or there wasn't any indication that Botham Jean knew that she was an off-duty police officer. So what he's saying makes no sense.
I don't disagree with you. Also, you have a jury that's been sequestered. I've been asked a lot of times, do you think this jury made this decision because they were afraid of some sort of civil unrest or riots? I don't. I mean, they've been typically juries aren't that forward thinking. They're trying to make a decision that's a question that's put before them right there, trying to answer that question, and there doesn't appear to be a lot of outside influence. They've been sequestered the whole time. So I don't think that this case, all the other cases that were mentioned, none of them dealt with off-duty police officers
right.
who made a mistake. All of those other cases they talked about were about on-duty officers that were effecting an arrest or did something under the color of authority. And so I think it was really misplaced in order to compare this case to all those others.
I do too. Yeah, it's impossible to connect the dots based on what they said. Final question, with your vast experience in trial and witnessing, what do you think the jury's going to come back with?
Yeah, man, isn't that the ultimate question? We've been wrong a lot so far, and it's hard to put a finger. I mean, if we're reading the tea leaves based upon what the jury did before, I see them rejecting sudden passion. As I was watching, because I watched all of the sentencing hearing today, and you're just stricken by Botham Jean and what an impeccable young man he was. And people are going to want to stand up for his life. And the way they see to stand up is to punish him. But I think you got the other side of the story with Amber Guyger, and she's not a racist. I mean, this was a young female herself that was in a bad position. She's got people that love her too. That being said, If we have a compromised verdict, then they might find sudden passion. I don't see it. I think that she's going to get hammered pretty hard.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Chris Lewis, defense attorney with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon. We will talk again tomorrow. And once again, thank you so much for your observations and your review of this case. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.